Director of the first film, Wes Craven, didn't return for A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 because he didn't want to work on something he didn't own the rights to.
You know, I didn't want to keep going on something that was owned by somebody else.
Plus, he didn't have the greatest relationship with New Line Cinema founder Bob Shay.
I don't think that there was a real conversation about Wes doing Nightmare 2 because he and Bob had such a stressed relationship. It was a long time before I think they spoke to each other.
They did send Craven the script for the sequel, allowing him to give notes on it, but they didn't actually want his input.
I thought the script was quite inferior, and I had a lot of notes, and they said, we just want to shoot this, so off they went.
Director Jack Shoulder was not a fan of the original film.
I was never a huge fan of the original. I mean, I understood why it was good, and I understood why it was successful.
Therefore, he felt like he could play around with the story as much as he wanted, flat out ignoring the rules director Wes Craven established in the first movie. That's why we see Freddy attacking kids at a pool party in the real world rather than just coming after them in their dreams.
I felt no compunction to follow the template of the first film.
Several people did not like this, including Wes Craven, go figure, and Robert Englund.
I remember really bringing up the script issues and saying, this is really, really problematic, especially the ending.
I do remember Freddy coming out at a pool party and feeling like, oh my God.
Wes objected to the fact that Freddy appears when everybody's awake.
There's certain rules you don't break. In the Wes Craven Bible, we broke a couple of rules.
If he's out someplace, just out in the open and surrounded by big teenagers, it's not going to have the power. You know, it's just, you're just running up against a wall right away as a director to make that scary.
Robert Englund's agent wanted a ton of money from New Line Cinema if they wanted Englund to reprise his role as Freddy Krueger. New Line didn't have a ton of money, but they did have a solution.
And Bob Shay said, why do we need to have Robert Englund? Because he's just a guy in a rubber mask.
They found out pretty quickly that Englund is irreplaceable.
We started Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 with an extra in a rubber suit and mask.
And he was just atrocious. He would walk like a dime store monster. He would sort of hunker around.
Moving around like Frankenstein.
Going like this.
He was just terrible. Terrible.
Leave a comment below if you support Robert Englund as Freddy. Michael J. Fox was originally considered for the role of Jesse Walsh, but was unable to accept due to scheduling conflicts with Back to the Future.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
Other actors who auditioned for the role include John Stamos, Christian Slater, and Brad Pitt.
Have mercy.
Founder of New Line Cinema, Bob Shay, originally wanted to play the role of Grady's dad.
Bob Shay has always been a slightly frustrated actor. He had wanted to play the father of Robert Rustler.
Let's face it, while his dad doesn't get much airtime, it's definitely a role that requires some emotional highs. Lyman Ward is an established actor that's capable of delivering those emotional highs. Bob Shay, on the other hand...
What do you mean?
Director Jack Shoulder, like any other director with common sense, told Shay he'd rather have an experienced actor in the role, which resulted in Shay almost firing the director on the spot.
I said, I need a real actor to play that role. Bob got very offended by that. And at one point he even threatened to fire me.
Jack could end up being a jerk from time to time, and that was one of his jerkier episodes.
Luckily for the both of them, they were able to come to a compromise, and we got this epically hilarious thing of beauty.
Bob Shay looked darling in his leather costume as the bartender. He was so sweet, and I want you to know that we all believed him.
Like this video and subscribe to the channel right now, or else Freddy will come and get you in your dreams. Trust me. A scene in the film had to be removed because it made actor Mark Patton so uncomfortable. It's no secret that there are sexual undertones throughout the movie. Undertones. Some crew members loved them, some hated them. However, Patton believes they went too far when they wanted Freddy to put his blades in Jesse's mouth, and he refused to do the scene.
I said, well, you know, whatever. I mean, I can go there with you. And my makeup artist, he comes running across, screaming at the top of his lungs, stop! He needs makeup. And so he grabs me and he goes, don't you dare let him put that blade in your mouth. It'll look like you're blowing him.
I don't see the big deal, bro. Patton, who landed the role of Jesse Walsh, had actually tried out for the original A Nightmare on Elm Street, but didn't land a role. The casting director had also rejected him for A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, but one of the producers found his publicity photo lying on the ground, picked it up, read his credits, and said, "What about him?" The rest, as they say, is history. One of the cheesiest moments in horror history has to be, well, A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 in general.
It's okay. It's all over.
Still, the psychotic parakeet that burst into flames in the movie is bad. Like, Courtney Cox's haircut in Scream 3 bad. But the scene could have been salvaged with, "Oh my god, what the hell is this?"
And so we built this demonic parakeet, and it was demonic, I'll tell you. It was oversized, it had a rod coming out of its butt, and it could flap its wings and move its head. I think it didn't get used because it wasn't parakeet-like enough.
So, we got this dumb shit instead. Well, at least we've got you, Clue. Mark Patton's biggest regret in his entire film career definitely has to be Amityville Clown House.
Certainly it's one of a kind. If there was one thing that I could delete from my filmography in my entire life, it would be that dance scene in my bedroom.
Oh, well, I guess my opinion just doesn't count for anything. But Risky Business with Tom Cruise was so popular that they wanted to rip it off, even though Patton absolutely did not want to do the scene. But we all know how that went. The original idea for Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is quite shocking. Screenwriter Leslie Boehm had written a script entitled A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Baby. My concept was a homage to Rosemary's Baby. I came up with a plot that had a new family move into the house. A teenage boy, his pregnant mother, and a stepfather the boy didn't get along with. It was a real bloody, scary idea. Much more physical and realistic because the dream reality stuff was less central to these movies then. My story was more of a possession scenario with Freddy getting inside the mother's womb, controlling the fetus. But New Line Cinema passed on it because executive Sarah Risher was pregnant at the time, and I understand the idea upset her. So they went with David Chaskin's concept instead. As we all know, Boehm's idea would not go unused as he was hired on to write the script for A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child.
It's a boy!
Freddy finally got his baby.
Jesus Christ, it's the mother, Lord.